Am I the a-hole for treating my coworker differently after she accused me of SA when I saved her life? I'm a quiet guy and genuinely friendly. I treat all my coworkers as friends. About 2 months ago, during a work lunch, one of my coworkers started choking, so I did a Heimlich maneuver to help her. After she was in the clear, the others cheered. I asked if she was alright, and she just nodded and headed to the bathroom without a word, so I didn't think much about it. Until 2 days later, when I got called into HR for my inappropriate behavior. I was confused and asked for more details. That's when they told me that my coworker had filed a complaint stating that she felt my touches while I was helping her were inappropriate, that my body was too close, and that she felt my private touching her. I gave my statement and they put me on ice. I was still working, but with the potential to be removed, while they investigated further. After a week, I was in the clear. I returned to working normally without fear, but I started distancing myself from that coworker. She tried to apologize, which I accepted, and she tried to explain that she has trauma and should have told me. But I still took precautions and only treated her as just a colleague. I no longer talk to her unless needed, always keep my distance. I no longer invite her out unless there are others present. She could feel my hesitation toward her, and how I no longer treat her the same as others. She tried to say that I'm being ridiculous and petty, but I told her that I'm just looking after myself. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. So she falsely accused you of SA when you saved her life in front of a crowd using a widely known medical technique? I would hope your company is looking for a way to let her go, because this lunatic is a massive liability to have around. Not only that, next time she chokes, everyone will be too afraid to help her. That would be a play stupid games, win stupid prizes moment. You have to avoid her now. That's the answer. You weren't fired this time, but she has the power to get you fired, and you do not sacrifice yourself in this situation. That will not solve anything and will only cause you harm. Not the a-hole. You literally saved her life, and she repaid you by filing a false SA complaint that could have ruined your career and reputation. Her having trauma doesn't excuse potentially destroying someone's life after they helped her. Your new boundaries are completely reasonable. Keeping interactions professional and distancing yourself is the smart move to protect yourself. You could have been fired or labeled as a predator over performing a medical emergency procedure. She's upset because she has to face the consequences of her actions. She can't accuse someone of SA and then expect the relationship to go back to normal just because she apologized. You're not being petty, you're being prudent. WTF? Falsely accusing someone of SA is no damn joke, and she expects things to remain the same? Her apology doesn't cut it. Stay far away, please. Not the a-hole in any way. She only apologized after the investigation concluded and he was found innocent. That speaks volumes about her character. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker to management for touching and smelling my hair? So I, 28 female, work at a tech company and it's generally a relaxed environment. Most of my coworkers are pretty chill, and I get along with everyone, including Tom, 35 male. We work on the same team, but I don't interact with him too much outside of team meetings and casual office chats. That said, things have gotten really uncomfortable lately, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting, so I need some advice. About a month ago, I was sitting at my desk working, and Tom walked by and, without saying anything, reached over and brushed his fingers through my hair. I was stunned, but I didn't say anything. Just awkwardly laughed it off, assuming it was a one-off thing. But then it started happening more and more. Every time he'd walk by my desk, he'd touch my hair, sometimes lightly running his fingers through it. It started feeling weird, but I just didn't know how to handle it. Then one day, it crossed the line. I was in the break room getting coffee, and Tom came up behind me and smelled my hair. He just leaned in, took a deep breath, and said something like, "Your hair smells so good. What kind of shampoo do you use?" I was completely horrified. I didn't know what to say, so I just muttered a quick answer and walked away. I couldn't believe it. After that, it only got worse. He would sometimes stand a little too close to me when talking, and I'd catch him sniffing the air around me like he was trying to smell my hair again. He'd even comment on it like, Your hair always smells so fresh. I wish I knew what scent that is. I tried to brush it off, but it felt more and more invasive every time. Finally, a few days ago, after I did it again during a meeting, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I felt grossed out and violated. I went to HR and explained the situation, including how Tom had repeatedly touched and smelled my hair without my consent. I told them I felt uncomfortable and had tried to ignore it, but it had gone on long enough. HR assured me they'd take care of it. A couple of days later, Tom came to me visibly upset. He asked why I went to HR and said, "I didn't think it was a big deal. I was just complimenting you on your hair. It's no different than someone saying they like your shoes." I told him it wasn't just a compliment. It was an invasion of my personal space, and I had asked him to stop before, but he didn't listen. He then said I was overreacting, that I was making things awkward, and that I should have just told him to stop instead of reporting him. A few people from our team have been talking about it, and some say I made a mountain out of a molehill, that I should have just handled it directly with him. Now I'm feeling conflicted. I don't want to be the person who overreacts, but I also feel like his behavior was crossing serious boundaries. Was I wrong for going to HR? Should I have just told him to stop? So, am I the a-hole for reporting Tom to management instead of just asking him to stop? Not the a-hole. That was seriously creepy behavior. I don't know how you let him even touch your hair to begin with. I think being a woman makes you allow things that you shouldn't allow. In the future, don't allow anybody to invade your personal space in any way. Seriously, you have nothing to feel guilty about. Nothing. It's also sexual harassment, especially if he's saying that it's the same as a compliment to your shoes. It is not. I'd also report that he came and berated you about the situation to HR, since his answer should have been okay and then stopped interacting with you. Be safe. Report his reaction to HR. He needs to understand that his behavior and his reaction are both unacceptable. Don't let him intimidate you into accepting this kind of behavior. This absolutely qualifies as harassment and could end up creating a toxic work environment for you. When I was in my 20s, I had very similar experiences. It took decades for me to learn how to stand up for myself. Please, OP, listen to your gut in these situations. Don't worry about your coworkers' opinions. Seriously, when you eventually leave your job, you won't ever hear from half of them again. What's most important is that you are comfortable in your place of work. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I bought emotion-activated door chime from my office because my partner keeps scaring me? Me and my partner both work from home. During the day, I work out of his spare room and he works out of the living room. So during work hours, these two spaces essentially function as two offices. I will refer to the room I work in as my office for simplicity's sake, but it is not for my exclusive use. And there is a second bathroom that can only be accessed through the spare room. I scare extremely easily. I usually keep the door open unless one of us is on a call, but very frequently my husband will walk in the room and scare me really badly. I'll scream and jump, and for a few seconds, I genuinely cannot control my reaction. Sometimes, I feel like I almost white out because it scares me so much. I don't handle it very well. A good scare will leave me shaking for hours afterward. I know I'm very sensitive to being startled and that it's an unreasonable reaction, but I genuinely cannot control it. I have some trauma in my past that contributes to this, but I'm working with a therapist. My partner takes a great deal of offense to my reactions, even though I try to explain that I can't control them. Sometimes when he startles me like that, I'll say something like, "Why did you do that?" Or, "Why do you keep doing that?" as a reflex, and that hurts his feelings. I always apologize and try to assure him it's not personal. It's just what comes out of my mouth when I'm scared. But I can tell it really bothers him. I've asked him to just pause and knock before he comes in, but that's not really fair since it's his home too, and the room isn't exclusively mine. However, the scares are bad enough that they can greatly impact my workday. I know this seems extreme, but a good scare makes me feel like my brain turns off for a while until I can get a hold of myself again. I suggested this morning, after a particularly bad scare, that maybe I should get a motion sensor door chime, like the ones they have in shops. I could install it in the hall just before my door and put the noisemaker on my desk so that I'll hear the noise and know he's coming. My partner thinks that's over the top, but I want to find a solution that will work. Would I be the a-hole if I just bought a chime and set it up? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, but why is he coming through your office so frequently? If it's for the bathroom, why can't he use the other bathroom? Get a sensor. There's no good reason not to have one. And if there's no good reason for him to be walking through your workspace so often, then he is trying to undermine you. Usually it's to come chat with me, but it can also be to grab something since the room has storage in it. He used to come through to use the bathroom when he had to go number 2, but I put my foot down on that because it felt so awkward for me to try to work just 6 feet from where he was using the bathroom. Also, the smell would linger for ages. So now he uses the other bathroom pretty much exclusively. He's doing this to you on purpose. Yep, I have a very overreactive startled response too. My husband though, he'll call out to me before coming up to me unawares. He actively tries to minimize my stress. Actively. Not the a-hole. Look, I have a childhood trauma caused PTSD. A very active startle reflex, which is what you are describing, is one of the symptoms. You cannot help it. It is part of who you are. You need to find a way to make this work. If it's a door chime, so be it. For me, it would be locking the dang doors so they have to knock. If you let them in right away, you aren't blocking their access to a shared room. Shared rooms don't mean everybody has 100% access all the time. You have the right to privacy, safety, and limits. Here's my example. What triggers me is sound and movement. Like when you work in a cubicle and your boss walks up behind you and starts talking. Yeah, I would jump, startle in my chair, and let out a scream every time. So, what did this boss do? He learned that he either waits to talk to me when I notice him, or stands still and talks to me. No more jump scares. No more screaming. That was a boss. Not a man who loved me and was supposed to be my partner. Just some dude who could have made my life hell, but cared enough to learn and change his behavior. Your partner needs to step up. Part of my being easily scared definitely comes from my childhood. I grew up in a borderline cult and wasn't allowed privacy as a kid. So I spent a lot of time getting caught for doing things I wasn't supposed to, like reading secular literature. I think that led me to feel like I'm always in trouble or something. I'm working on it, but I don't really have access to regular therapy at this time. I know there's nothing he could catch me doing that would get me in trouble, but I feel like that fear still kind of exists. Mini update. Sorry, I'm a little overwhelmed. A lot of people are saying he's doing it on purpose, and I hadn't thought of that. I'm more than entertaining that idea now. I'm going to try my best to reply to comments. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for showing my sister the same amount of care she showed me when my ex-boyfriend turned out abusive? My older sister Anna has always been opinionated and judgmental. She sees the world in black and white and barely shows empathy toward people, even her own family, unless they're exactly like her. She doesn't agree with my choices and can't understand why I want kids and be a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't just not understand. She critiques it at every turn, to the point where my husband can't stand her and has banned her from our house. We also don't allow our kids to spend time with her. I've never liked her, and the peak of my dislike for her was back when I was in college. I got into a relationship with Rob. I thought he was perfect. He seemed kind, funny, and attentive. I won't go into details, but that relationship went from good to absolutely terrible. It only stopped when I called the cops on him. He was arrested, and I finally had the courage to leave and tell my family and friends. When I told Anna, I'm sure you can guess her reaction. She had no sympathy and asked why I hadn't seen the signs. She was sure I had ignored them just to have a hot, bad boyfriend and said, "Look where that's gotten you." I didn't argue with her. Frankly, I was tired. I told her that if she ever got into an abusive relationship, she should never call me because the only thing I do is laugh at her. I stopped trying with her and just focused on my husband, kids, and my 2 other sisters. Now on to the present. Anna's husband of 7 years put his hands on her a couple of days ago. I don't know the full story, but they were arguing and he ended up slapping her mid-fight, as well as calling her horrible names. She left and went to our parents, who called the cops on her behalf, and he was arrested. My dad told me about it and asked me to bake something for her to cheer her mood up. I told him no, that I'm not going to show care to that woman. I mean, she has our parents and her dog. What more could she need? It was a phone call and I guess on speaker, because Anna freaked out and started yelling at me. I told her again, why should I care about a woman who ignored bad signs and got into a relationship with a bad man just because he was a doctor? She was hysterical, so I cut the call because her voice alone irritates me. Lol. My mom called me and said I need to sympathize with her and that she won't talk to me until I do. I just said, fine, if she's willing to cut me off, then she's cutting off my husband and kids for a woman who barely visits them, even though she lives only 30 minutes away. My parents haven't talked to me since, and I honestly don't know if I was wrong. I'm tired of being the one who is understanding and nice to her when I'm the youngest, and she can't spare a bit of empathy. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She can't refuse to give care and empathy and then expect the same back. Treat people how you want to be treated, but also treat people with the same respect you have for yourself. She didn't have either of those, so if your parents want to deal with it, let them. Focus all your energy on your family. At least you didn't marry your abuser. Tell mom, I'm treating sis the same way you treated me when my ex abused me. She set the standard. I'm just playing by her rules. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I would write or talk to your parents and tell them what your sister did and said when you were abused. You are only following her example of treating her the same way. This way, they are aware of how rotten she was to you. Not the a-hole with a caveat. Do your parents know the extent to which your sister has alienated you? Or are they putting this down to sibling rivalry? Excellent point. It's important that the parents understand why you are behaving the way you are, OP. You do need to talk to them about it outside of when your sister is on the phone. I hate when people have someone on a call and don't tell you. It's highly inconsiderate and downright rude. Anyhow, be sure they understand how she treated you when you were in that situation. They will probably think you need to be more understanding since you have been through it. Tell them it's the opposite. You needed support then and she belittled you. Because of that, you cannot support her now. It was hurtful and you are still angry. Parents tend to leap to support the child that's having emotional stress. It's pretty natural. They just need to understand why you can't. If they push it, just go low or no contact for a little while until things die down. Then you can have a talk with them about what happened and why you had to stand on your ground. You probably sounded pretty cold and heartless to them in this situation. Once it calms down and they are able to look at the bigger picture, they may be better able to understand where you are coming from.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he got exactly what he deserved when he pushed his girlfriend away for being a gold digger? My brother is a very hardworking man, and at 27, he is now very wealthy and doing well for himself. He's been with his girlfriend for 6 months, and throughout the time, we have gotten close because we both like hair, makeup, and shopping. I never knew there was anything wrong with their relationship, except when she texted me last week saying she would love to hang out, but thinks it'll be inappropriate because her and my brother broke up. I asked her why, and she said she was sick and tired of auditioning to prove she was with him for the right reasons. She went on to say that my brother is paranoid she's after his money, so he would test her like 1. Leaving out his bank statements on their bed and getting upset when she picked it up. 2. Going out to eat at high-end restaurants he requested and leaving his wallet at home at purpose to make her pay the bill and prove she's not going out with him for money. 3. Never buying her gifts and questioning her when she asks why he doesn't. I was so shocked, so I had to hear my brother's perspective. We spoke, and he told me everything she said was true, and that there's nothing wrong with making sure his girlfriend is with him for the right reasons. He said he left his bank statements on the bed and was peeking through the door to see if she would be curious. And when he saw her pick up the papers, he knew in his gut that she was using him for his money. So he set up the restaurant idea to see if she would get upset at paying a $500 bill, which she was. I asked him if he thinks her being an elementary school teacher could have contributed to her being upset at a $500 bill at the restaurant he wanted to go to, and he said no. He said the straw that broke was when she asked him why he hasn't bought her a single gift since they've started dating. When she bought him a gaming console and new rims for his car, and he knew she was just discreetly asking him to buy her an expensive gift. He confronted her and said he thinks she's with him for his money, so she said, "Let me do us both a favor," and dumped him and blocked him. He's upset about the gold-digging witch, and when I laughed, he called me an a-hole. He said I would never understand what it's like being a rich man and being used, and I get that concern, but I told him if he thinks any woman will be okay with his tests and auditions, he's delusional as hell. If he doesn't want to be used for his money, he should start dating people as wealthy as him, or leave lower-income people alone if he's not going to be genuine in his relationships unless they pass his test. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you told your brother the truth. He sounds immature and testing a partner never turns out well. He said it's impossible to find a woman as wealthy as him, so he's forced to date middle and lower class women. So he's still going to continue his tests. I told him he should go to therapy, and he said I'm crazy. Your brother knows there are such things as prenups, yeah? Also, while I'm by no means wealthy, I do alright for myself, as I am sure is the case for many on here. I will say if I were invited to be treated at an expensive restaurant and be stuck with a $500 bill as a test, I would be massively blasted and would end a relationship. There's no way I would have paid a bill on a teacher's salary. I would have left his butt right then. He goes after lower to middle class women because it feels like he has an advantage over them. He likes the power. Seriously, he enjoys feeling superior and making them jump through hoops. Not the a-hole, OP. Also, dump your brother and stays friends with the ex. Only a-hole here is the brother. Also, where does she teach that she can afford game consoles, rims, and $500 dinners? Clearly, she's really responsible with her money, something you'd think the brother would appreciate if he weren't such a shallow a-hat. She told me she dipped into her savings for all that, and not her salary, which is sad because she still has student loans and credit cards she's paying off. Not gonna lie, I've dated men like this, and a girlfriend is better off without this minefield of mind games. She's clearly too good for him. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for only taking care of my wife and ignoring our roommate? My wife and I live in a house with a mother-in-law apartment over the garage. We got gifted a house from her uncle, and we use it for both a house and for work/side projects. So, when we were going to rent out the mother-in-law apartment, it made sense to rent to an artist. Our roommate is a very intense woman all of the time. She's almost a caricature of a man-hating feminist. I hate using that term as an insult because I believe in equality, but it's the most concise way to explain this woman. This woman hates the entire world, but especially me. She has tried to explain to my wife that I'm evil because of an entire laundry list of assumptions about me. I've heard her go on rants when she's outside about men and everyone she views as the enemy though, so I'm just a more available target. I don't like her. She stresses me out every time I have to talk to her, and I wish she would leave, but evicting her isn't an option for multiple practical and legal reasons. My wife and I both have histories of trauma, but 2020 has been harder on her. She's often afraid to go in public, so I have been doing most of the errands and taking care of her a lot more. The roommate has caught onto this and has decided that I owe her the same care because she has taken to cornering me all around the small yard to demand to know why I refuse to give aid to a high-risk member of my household and that I have to help her because I am clearly able and owe her. She has made multiple videos accusing me of discriminating against her for being a single woman artist and wanting her to ration food and starve by forcing her into the world when it's too dangerous. I don't care about her Twitter followers, but I am concerned that maybe I need to do something to help. It does look like she's losing weight and has been out a lot less, but I really can't swallow helping someone for free that is constantly mean to me and shoving phone cameras in my face to try to film a staged argument to try to get some kind of internet fame. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. For goodness sake. She's not a part of your family. You're the landlord and she's your tenant. Unless it's in the lease that you'll provide these things. Tell her to pound sand. That's the only obligation you have to her, whatever's in that document. She's not a part of your family. She has no right whatsoever to demand that you care for her. She sounds like a horrible woman. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, OP. I don't fully know your circumstances or where you are, but if she's dumb enough to keep an online record of her harassing you, because that's what it is, then depending on the level of those, your state laws about recording and consent, etc., you may very well have the ability to file for a restraining order, which could possibly yield her tenant's rights straight out the window. I know you said it isn't an option, but put in writing to her that you do not give her your consent to appear in her videos. And just speak with a lawyer if you can to see what your options are. If you're in somewhere like California, she's breaking the law. If she's video recording him within their home without his consent, that is likely illegal as well. Awesome point. I agree to get her out. This can't be good for his wife either. It's in the yard. She doesn't have access to the main house. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mom's new husband I don't want the responsibility of being his kid's big sister? My, 16 female, mom got married in January. My mom's husband has 2 kids. His son is 7 and his daughter is 5. My mom's husband has wanted me to be their big sister, but I have mostly done my own thing since they got married. It's not that I'm not happy for my mom. I am. She has been alone since my dad died when I was 5, and it was just the 2 of us through my childhood. So I am happy for her. I'm just not totally into the idea of us, the whole big happy blended family, where there's no step or half or anything before the titles of mom/dad/siblings. My mom's husband and I have butted heads a lot over this. The stay-at-home order was tough because his kids wanted me to do everything with them. He wanted me to do their school from home with them, and he wanted me to play with them and come up with fun things for us to do together. And I just want to focus on my work and talk to my friends online and via games since I couldn't see them for months. He didn't like that at all, and it made things tense. I sat with his kids sometimes, but I couldn't get away from them and didn't want to spend my free time with them or my study time. The other week, we had a blow-up about the whole thing. His kids are back in school. I'm doing distance learning, so they are around less, and I'm able to see my friends outside, and he doesn't like that I'm spending no time with his kids. He said I'm supposed to be their big sister, and I told him I didn't want that responsibility, that I didn't sign up for having my free time taken over by his kids. My mom said she gets it, but it wouldn't hurt to try a little more with them and be the sister they're crying out for. She said it would mean a lot to her, but if I can't, I can't. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I told him I didn't want that responsibility, that I didn't sign up for having my free time taken over by his kids. Damn straight. He wanted me to do their school from home with them, and he wanted me to play with them and come up with fun things for us to do together. Sounds more like he wants a free babysitter. Why would you have been doing their school from home with them when you had your own work to do? My mom said she gets it, but it wouldn't hurt to try a little more with them and be the sister they're crying out for. She said it would mean a lot to her, but if I can't, I can't. Listen, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be nice to them or interact with them at mealtimes, etc. But beyond that, you have your own life, and a 16-year-old is not typically going to want to hang out with a 5- and 7-year-old more than with their own similarly aged friends. The step aspect of it doesn't even come into it. If your mom's husband wants to force you to spend your time with them, he can ask you to babysit, paid, and if you want to do it, then you can. Your time is your own. Exactly what I was going to say. Even if they were your 100% bio siblings, you still wouldn't want to hang out with them. Not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for locking my wife out of my accounts? Am I the a-hole for never giving my wife access to my bank account again? The last year has been a real hell for me. Deaths in the family, medical issues, emergency surgeries, and of course, money issues. Through all of it, the only constant is my wife's spending. I go in for treatment. Because of this, I cannot work, so I tell her we need to budget. She says she understands, but within 3 months, I am looking for financial help because she kept buying whatever she wanted at the time. We get a bit of holiday money and we agree to not spend it all. While I was in treatment, she spent it all. We get tax refund. Within 3 months, that's gone. I cash in a long-term investment to clear out all debts and give us a cushion that should have lasted indefinitely. That lasted 5 months. In the last month, disability gave her a total of $1,800 in payments. Even though she pays no bills, it's already gone. For your information, I have no access to her accounts. The only reason she does not have access to mine at this time is because I've been garnished twice for her old debts. So I took her name off to avoid it again. Update info. Some posters have asked about food costs and such. The funds she gets every month are not used for any food shopping initially. Because of my current condition and the situation we are in, we get a benefit until things clear up. This is where most of our food needs are met. But the number of times I have had to cover extra costs because the benefit has been used up, as well as her own funds, has become almost common. And yes, she knows how upset this makes me. I have literally looked at her and told her just how broke we are because of her mishandling of her accounts. The shock on her face is real as the reality of what she had done hits her. I can recall a few times I had to explain to her that she had spent all our extra funds within 1 to 2 weeks of getting them. This impact just does not last. Divorce is not on the menu, at least not yet. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This sounds awful. She needs to learn not to spend money and budget. If she can go through that much money with no bills, it's extremely concerning. I wouldn't let her in my account either. Maybe start having her itemize what she buys and explain to you in detail why she absolutely needs that item and why she couldn't live without it. Maybe that will help her realize her spending is affecting the household funds. I wouldn't even give her an allowance, to be honest. If she doesn't have any bills, then she can get a part-time job. If she wants to continue spending, she can work for it. This doesn't work. It's seen as controlling, abusive, and holding money over your partner, regardless of how much is wasted or how much it hurts watching your savings and sacrifice disappear in takeaways and coffee. Source now to income broke husband. Not the a-hole. Reconsider your marriage. This woman will financially ruin you. I see a divorce in your future, OP, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.